Hey everybody, I want to thank you for coming to our Advancing Your Excel Skills Intermediate Workshop presented by Working with Hope and Braintek. Hope Hill, founder of Working with Hope, works with people that have illnesses that are invisible. She encouraged me to put on this workshop to help working individuals improve their office related skills in the workplace. And we want to thank Hope for helping us put this on. My name is Greg Brainerd. I'm the founder and owner of Braintek. We're a computer IT support company. We do managed services for small and medium-sized businesses in the Houston metro area. We've been helping businesses with their IT since 2003. I'm also the author of Cybersecurity, Protecting Your Business from Hackers. Today, we're going to talk about different Excel skills. And here's a good list. We're going to go over removing duplicates, adding notes and comments, formatting tabs, symbols, word art, text boxes, password protecting your sheets and workbooks, charts, doing a horse race chart using the consolidate function, data validation function, the if statements, changing images using formulas, the VLOOKUPs and XLOOKUPs, and changing images with VLOOKUP, some pivot tables, and then working with some external data. So in the last session, we discussed how to highlight duplicates using conditional formatting. Today we've got a list of names with some duplicates in them, as you can see, and we're going to go and eliminate them. So let's go ahead and select our range that we're going to work with. We're going to come over here to the data column. Let's expand out Excel a little bit so we can see it. And over here under Data Tools, we've got Remove Duplicates. We're just going to click on that. And we get a little dialog box confirming what we're going to about to do. So it's automatically selecting our column A. You would want to check the box that your data has headers if you've got headers like this is first name or names or whatever at the top. And just click OK. And as you can see, it removed several duplicates, left the unique values. Next, we're going to talk about notes and comments. So oftentimes you're collaborating with other people if you're using Office 365. And so if you want to start a conversation with them about something within your workbook or sheet, you can go ahead and right-click on a cell and choose New Comment. When you do that, it's going to put my name on there, and I can just start the conversation. Hello, let's discuss this sheet. And then you can Control-Enter to post it. And as you can see, it puts a little purple flag on the cell to indicate that there's a conversation going. Other people can reply to this. Here is my reply. If someone else is replying that was in this, it would have their name on it. When you're finished with this, you can either resolve the thread, which will make it no longer editable, or it won't ask for comments. So let's go ahead and do that. And now we hover over it. It says, hey, here's the conversation that's going on, and you can read that. You can delete it from here, or you can, of course, reopen the conversation, and it is marked as resolved. If you right-click on the cell again, you can also come back over here and delete the comment. If it's not resolved, you would also have the option to reply. Now, if you don't need to talk to anybody else, maybe it's just something that you're working on, you can add notes to your cell. So let's right-click and choose New Note. And here that's denoted with a little red arrow in the top right corner. And it looks very similar, but here is my note. And when I click off of it, it goes away, but when I hover over it, it shows you the note. You can, of course, right-click and edit the note, delete the note, show or hide the note. Moving on, we're going to look at formatting some tabs. So and these are tabs at the bottom, not the tabs that are at the top in the menu. So if you right-click down here, you can insert a new tab. And when you do that, this dialog box will come up and ask you what you're trying to insert. And you click OK. It'll just put that new tab there. You can rename the tab to whatever you want. You can, of course, right-click and delete it. You can move it. So if you want to move it around, you can take it and select where you want to move this sheet to. So we're looking at whatever. So let's move it to here, and it pops over here. You can also drag it to move it. You can, of course, copy it. So if you want to do that, you can create a copy of it, and when you do that, it'll put a whatever to, and of course I can drag that around. Then you can also color the tabs. So if I want to make these different colors, I can do that. So I can highlight which one I'm working on. You can hide the tabs, which are also very nice. So now whatever's hidden, and now I'm going to hide whatever too. Now they're gone, so I can't see them. But if I right click and choose unhide, I can see which tabs are currently hidden, and if I want, I can go ahead and show both of them. Let's say let's hide it, and you can unhide, and you can select more than one sheet, and then you can go ahead and recover them both, or unhide both. Symbols are great. I like to use symbols all the time. And there's all kinds of different symbols. And symbols are just simply a different character that's really represented as a font. So if you come over here to the Insert tab at the top, and under the Symbols section, you can click on Symbol. And there's all these different symbols that you can choose from. One of my favorites is the check mark symbol. I use this all the time. But you can also do other characters, like if you want the copyright symbol or some other different ones. If you're looking for different fonts, you can look through this list of fonts. There's all kinds of different symbols, math symbols, these types of symbols that are just pictures and hieroglyphs, arrows, whatever you're looking for that you want to insert. So let's go ahead and put that in here into our document. And you can see it just puts it into the cell like it would if you were just typing some text. And I can then highlight it, I can color it, I can make it bigger, I can center it, just like you would with any other font that's inside of that cell. You know, another thing, and you can see that it's represented by this. Now, if I change the font, let's say I just pick, I want to pick Arial, and here is my text, and you know, you can mix the two together, so you can have the symbol in the beginning. But if you just were to type based off of the symbol, and you see it says Wingdings up there, and if I start typing, here is my text. Now it's all of the different symbols that are coming from that particular Wingdings font. So just be careful about that. But typically what I'll do is I'll say, here's my text, and put it on in the cell next to it, and just kind of work with it that way. Word art. Word art's really fun to create and really bring a lot more life to your Excel sheet or workbook. If you come over here to Insert, and under the text area, there's this sideways A word art, and we can pick this. So we're going to pick, here's my word art, and here is my header. And what's nice about this is you can have this really special, fancy looking design that you can edit. So here we can change the color if you don't like that of the font itself. You can pick change the outline of it. You can kind of see that. You can give it some more weight so you could see it better. And then, did I pick that? I didn't do that. But you can really change this up. You can give it effects like glowing, or you can bevel it. You can add the reflection or get rid of the reflection, make it bigger, longer. We can add a drop shadow to the text in different directions. All kinds of, and you can transform it so you can make the text round. But one really cool thing that I thought, and of course this floats on top of the cell, so you can move this wherever you'd like. And of course if you want to do some different things in the background, you can use these shape styles over here. One thing I thought was pretty cool is I'm going to type in, here is my text, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to put in here equals A1, and all of a sudden now it's this text, which is what we're looking at over here. Let's go back to home, and we're going to increase the font, and you can see here's my text now is at that size. So I'm going to change this to my name is Greg, and now it kind of does that. So if you were to, you can obviously type it in the word art itself, or you can reference a cell and have it display that. So pretty cool things with word art. Text boxes are very, very similar to word art. I'm going to come back over here. It's just not as fancy in terms of what it looks like. So you're going to click on Insert, Text Box, draw a text box itself, and here is my text box. So again, this is floating on top of the other cells, and I can reposition it. I can do a lot of the same colorations, but I'm not, instead of using the shape format, I'm using the regular text format you use for any of these fonts. that's hard to read, so let's go back to white. You can increase the font in here as well. And just like we did previously, we can say, hey, this is going to be equal to A1. And here is the contents of my text box. And then there you go. And then, of course, you'd have to go ahead and reformat your text however you want that to be. You can shrink it up. We can rotate it around. And then, of course, position it wherever you want to position it. So move on to password protecting. So password protecting is wonderful if you don't want other people to make edits to your sheet or workbook, depending on what's going on, or you can allow some edits. So let's start by right-clicking on the sheet, and we can do protect to this sheet. Here are the default options it comes up with, which we're going to leave, but you can allow users of the workbook to do these other functions if you choose. But we're going to leave it as the default. We're going to put on our password 1234. It's going to ask us to confirm that password. We're going to type that in again, 1234. And now, when I type in something in the sheet, it says, sorry, you're not allowed to do that. So we're going to click OK. I'm going to unprotect it. We type in 1234. And let's say that I want to edit the first 5 rows of this column. So we're going to come over here to review, and we're going to allow a range. And we're going to pick this range here. You can edit this range. And you can see here it's A1 through A5. And we're going to click OK, and then we're going to protect the sheet. And we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I go to type on the sheet, it tells me I can't, but let's go try to change Greg to Gregory. And you can see that in those particular cells, I can definitely edit those. If you go back and unprotect the sheet, 1, 2, 3, 4, again, everything is editable again, including the range. Now, if you want, you can go back to your edit range, and you can add or remove or modify the ranges that you need for this. Now, if I want to password protect the entire workbook, I'm going to come over here to File, Info, Protect the Workbook, and I'm going to encrypt it with a password. So this requires you to type in a password every time that you open up your workbook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Re-enter my password. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you can see with this yellow that it has a password required. You do need to save your workbook. So let's go ahead and close that. Save it. And let's open that back up. And you can see before I can do anything, I have to type in this password. If I type in the password incorrectly, it won't let me in. And so now I have to go back and reopen it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm back into it. If I want to remove that password, back over here to File, Info, clear it out. We're going to close it out. And it should, hopefully it's now gone. Let's try it again. And it did not require the password that time. Let's talk about charts. So charts are a really nice way to visualize your data. I've got a very simple table here of names and scores, and so we're just going to highlight this group here, including the headers. We're going to click on Insert, and we're going to just start with these charts here. We're going to pick this bar graph. I'm going to throw that in here. I'll blow it up so you can see it a little bit better. And automatically Excel decided what the title of the chart's going to be. It figured out that the names and the scores should be positioned this way. If this is wrong, you can right-click on this. We can do Select Data, and we can swap your score and names around. You can increase or change your range data here. So for example, let's we'll leave it back on this one, but I want to add Jerry, and he has a score of 15. You can see that Jerry wasn't added. So if I right click here, I'm going to have to select my data and then go back and include Jerry or whoever I'm adding to it, and then it adds it. Over here, I can click on this paintbrush and change the style of the graph, or I can change the color of the graph. If I want, I can customize this even further. Let's get out of this. And I can double click on it, And over here I get this format data point. And if I click on the paint fill, I can then decide under the fill I want this color to be yellow. And you can do that for all of these different ones, so you can make them whatever you want them to be. This one's going to be red, and really customize your chart. So speaking of a customized chart, I have this one here, which is a horse race that we've set up that's looking at some sales data. So let's start off by removing some of our sales data. And you can see it redoes the whole chart for us. Very cool. But let's go ahead and delete it. We're going to start this from scratch so you can see what's going on. One thing to note is we're using this formula here to indicate the picture size. I'll explain that a little bit more detail. But we're going to select this group of data. This is going to be our sales data. We're going to go back up here to Insert. And we're going to pick the bar. Now we're going to be using a 2D stacked bar. And we're going to click OK, and let's make this a little bit bigger for us to see. There we go. Now, you'll notice that this orange section here for the stack bar, which is the picture formula, looks roughly the same in each one of these. So the way that I did that is I calculated the max value out of the totals here. So in this case, it would be D15, which is the $3,060. And then I divide that by 7, which this number is kind of arbitrary. I picked it because I felt that it fit the size of the graphic that I'm going to use. But if your graphic is smaller or longer, then you may want to play around with that. And we'll see that in a different example shortly. So we're going to go ahead and just leave that as is. So again, that's max of this group, and then divide that by some number that gives you the size that you're looking for. All right. So we're going to start by removing these grid lines, or changing the grid lines rather. So we're just going to click on here. We're going to pick on this plus sign. We're going to come to grid lines, and we're going to remove the vertical, but we're going to add some horizontal. And then I'm going to click off of that, and I'm going to select just the grid line itself. And you can see I've got all four of these highlighted. I'm going to change the width of these to 4. So it's going to be a little bit thicker of a line, but you can say no line, gradient line. You can color the line if you want to make it some other color. Do all kinds of cool stuff with this. Next, we're going to right click on the bars. So I want all of the bars to be selected. So we've got all 3 of our bars. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to add the data label. Now you can see that we have very faintly, you can read the number of the total for each person, but it's hard to read. So let's further customize this. So we're going to come over here to the paintbrush, or I'm sorry, the paint fill, and I'm going to get rid of that color on the fill, and then I'm going to get rid of the border. So now when I click off of it, you can't see the bar at all. Next, I'm going to select the data labels themselves, and I'm going to click on this bar icon, which is the label options, and expand that. And I want this to be at the inside edge, and so what that does is it shoves it over at the very top of the graph, or in this case, the right-hand side. Then I'm going to play around my font here. I'm going to make them a lot bigger. I'm going to make them green, because later on we're going to do some green stuff, and I want them bold and italicized. So there we go. Now, another thing you'll notice is that these names are in the incorrect order compared to our chart. So it starts off with Joe, Sally, Brian, and that's and this is not even the same, so it's backwards. So I'm going to select that, and over here I want to, under the bar label options again, I want to categorize in reverse order. I'm sorry, categories in reverse order. And then that spins everything around so it's going to be in the exact same order as my chart is in. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to colorize this, and we're going to make the font a little bigger. We're going to do the same thing with the legend at the top. And then down here, we're going to get rid of this legend. I don't want it, so we're going to delete that, and now that's gone. Let's give this a different title. We're going to call this the horse race. And again, we're going to go ahead and give it some more, a little bigger, the same color fonts, keep everything a little consistent. Now the next part we're going to do is we're going to need some images of some horses. So it could be any kind of image that you want, but it needs to have a transparent background, and I recommend that the images are roughly the same size. So we're going to right click on this, and I'm sorry, click on it. I don't want all of them selected, so we're going to click again, so I'm only selecting the one. I'm going to right click now, and under the fill option here, I'm going to choose a picture. And I believe, by the way, you can get to it from here as well. You can, oh wait, picture. So you can do that as well, and then you can insert a picture. But I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. And we're going to do from file. And you're going to want to browse to where you have these downloaded. So I have a horses folder, and we're going to pick this horse 2. And then we're going to do it again. And we're going to repeat this process 3 times until we have them all with different unique pictures. And as you can see, they're a little different compared to the original size. So you come back over here and you can play around with how this looks. So 8 makes it a little more compressed. 5 makes it a little longer. So play around with this until you get it to the way that you like it. And so that kind of gives you a slightly better thing, slightly better proportions to the image that you're working with. So we're almost finished. We have a few more things we're going to change. So next, we're going to give this, the track itself, a texture fill. Oops. We're going to do a texture, no, not texture. I'm sorry, a gradient fill. Pattern fill, that's what I want to use. And we're going to make it look like some grass. So let's take a look. So you can change the color around. So let's make it more of a grassy look. And just find one that you really like that gives you that grassy knoll kind of feeling from a racetrack. And then lastly, I'm going to change the background of the entire chart. We're just going to do a solid fill on this and play around with the colors until you get something that you like. Now lastly, once you're completed with your design of your horse track, you can start filling in your sales data. So we sold something for $3.15. You can see my horses moving along in the track. Oh, and Brian there jumps to the lead. So now we have Joe kind of lagging behind here, but let's see if Sally catches up because she sold something for $750 and she moves in the lead, or pretty close. She's right on Brian's heels. Well, Brian didn't happen to sell anything in September or August. So, but Joe continues to be a great seller, and Sally misses one, but Brian sells a very small contract, but maintains his lead. But as you can see, as we add our sales data, we start getting a very nice, cool horse race that you can take screenshots of and share this with your sales team. Here we've got a very similar graph, but here we're using a space race. We're using the exact same data, same kind of images, but you can see here our formula is by 3 for the proportions of our spaceship. So I encourage, and then also here we used a gradient fill on our bar graph, which is here, and you can add some gradient colors here and play around with that. You can add and remove the color, and then of course you can choose the color that you want for that to change that out. I encourage you to go through this exercise and see if you can reproduce the space race on your own. And I will be happy to answer any questions that you have as you're kind of going along the process. Next, we're going to move into the consolidate function. And consolidate's really nice because you can take the data that you have in other sheets or workbooks and merge it together to have a bunch of data in one place. So what we do is we have these 3 buildings that have different expenses each month throughout the year. And I want to represent this in one table on this master sheet. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the data table, data tab, and we're going to hit consolidate. And we have these different functions that we can use. We have the sum, count, average, etc. down the line, and there are several from you to choose from. But we're going to use sum, and we're going to go to our reference data, and then we're going to click on our first tab that we want to grab, and we're going to grab A through M5. So we pick the whole thing, and we're just going to hit enter, and it brings us back to this menu here. We're going to add that. Now we're going to click on building 2, and you can see that it's already got me selected here, so we'll just add that too. If it doesn't, you can click on this little arrow and you can browse to it. We're going to go to the next one, and it's got the same highlight, and we're going to add that. So we've got building 1, 2, 3, A1 through M5. In each of our tables, we have labels at the top and on the left. And if we create a link, this will display some of the extra data. So we're going to start by not doing that. And click OK. And let's go ahead and expand our field so we can see everything. So in our first example here, we've got the mortgages totaled, the electricity, gas, and internet. So our total expenses for mortgage were $42.50 per month. Internet was $225 per month. Now we can do whatever we want. So we can, of course, bold this up, make it look pretty. We can add some, we can sum out our data here, and do whatever we want to manipulate this data here for us. Now let's take a look at the other consolidated example, where we're going to use the create links. So we're going to use the exact same data, same function, all that. We're going to throw that in here, and what you can see the difference is we've got these little plus signs next to our data. Same kind of thing here. We can, bold it all up. We can do our add function here. That didn't add me correctly. Well, of course it didn't. Okay. So let's go back to home and sum, and there we go. And then we'll expand it off. And then we'll sum all that. So it looks very similar. But if we expand out these plus signs, you can see that it shows us the individual data from each sheet. So it got 1,000, 2,400, and 8,500, or 850 from each of these different sheets. And so we can see what it is from each one of those reference points, and we can expand it out for whichever we would want to do. So two different representations of it. One's got some extra data for you. Both very cool to allow you to see your data at a snapshot. Data validation. So data validation allows you to restrict what type of data is going into a specific cell. So let's kind of get started with this. So I want to restrict data in A1 through 10. And we're going to come back over here to the data tab, and we're going to set up data validation. So it's going to ask us a few questions here. What type of data do you want to restrict? And so you can click on this down arrow, and you have a couple of options here that you can pick from it. So we're going to just start with a whole number. And here you can decide, do you want that whole number between something, not equal to, greater than, or equal to, etc. So we're going to say we're going to have a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 10 for a whole number. Over here under input message, we can actually show a message regarding the instructions of what to do with this. So input a whole positive whole number between 1 and 10. And then we can display an error message if they don't do that. Whoops. Sorry, enter a positive number between 1 and 10. Now you can see that the instructions pop right up here. If I click over here, they do not. And I can type in 1, 20, 20, sorry, enter a positive number between 1 and 10. Okay, fine. So I'm going to retry -1, same thing. 1.1, same thing. So I can only do the numbers that I've dictated that are allowed. Now if I come over here and I type, none of those restrictions are in place outside of my data range here. Now let's say that you make a mistake or you want to change it. You can select those cells that you want to change, all or none of them, and you can come back over here to your data validation and change whatever you want. If you want to delete this entirely, you can just hit clear all, click OK, and now that's totally gone. So now I can do whatever I want in these cells. If statements. If statements are great fun. I've got a couple of them pre-typed out for us. So let's get started with looking at these. So the first one I've got here in the D1 is a statement that says, if A1 is equal to Greg, I want you to put the word true. And if it's not Greg, put the word false. So as you can see now, I've got Bob in A1 and it's displaying false. So if I type this to be Greg, it changes it to true. If I go back to nothing, it's false. Jack, it's false. All of those are false. So the only thing that's allowed is Greg in this particular case. What if I do lowercase Greg? It recognizes that as true. Same thing with uppercase Greg. So case in this case, it does not matter. Now we can also do it more based on numbers. So we can say if A2 is greater than 5, we're going to put greater than or equal to 5. Otherwise, it's less than 5. So again, we're already 5, so we know that anything greater than or equal to 5 will be, this is greater than 5. I'll put 1 in here, now it's less than 5. So again, that was if A2 is greater than or equal to 5, put whatever I want in terms of my text, whatever is true, and then if it's not that, then it's going to be false, less than 5. So here's one where we're actually putting in some calculations into the cell. So if A2 is greater than A3, then I want you to add the two of them together, so A2 plus A3. If it's not, then I want to minus them. So you can see here already, 1 minus 6 is a negative 5. So that's where we get that. If we were to go above 5, well, it's still a negative 1, but now if we go to 6, it's 0, and 7, now we're adding them together. So the formula is if it's greater than. Now if that's, you want it greater than or equal to or less than, you can change your formula to whatever you want. Here we've got a nested if statement. So we're going to go back to the first example where we said if A4 is Greg, this is Greg. Otherwise, let's check and see if this is something else. If it's A4 is Bob, this is Bob. And if it's not Greg or Bob, I don't know who this is. So let's put in here Greg. This is Greg, Bob, or Jack, and I don't know this person. So you can do all kinds of things with your formulas. These can get pretty complex as you nest them down, so I would be careful about that. I wanted to show you some neat things, so let's go back and insert a word art. And we're going to make word art equal to D4, kind of like what we did previously in our other example. So let's make this bigger so we can kind of see it. And if we type in Greg, this is Greg, Bob, and Jack. And this will function the exact same way if we were to do a text box. And we're going to make this equal to D4. And we get the same kind of thing going on. Greg, and they both do it together. Now we're going to do something fun here. We're going to do a formula that is that changes an image. So first off, we're going to write the formula here in D2. We're going to say if B2 is equal to 1, we're going to say unlocked. Otherwise, it's locked. All right, so we got if B2 is equal to 1, it's unlocked. Otherwise, it's locked. All right. So as you can see here, 2 is not equal to 1, so it's locked. Now, if I type in 1, it's unlocked, and if I type in anything else, it stays locked. All right, so that's step 1. Next one, we're going to if you don't already have a sheet, go ahead and create a sheet. I call it my pictures, and I'm going to insert an image into the A1 here. So I'm just going to expand this out so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to do another one in B1 as well. So we're going to come over to here to insert pictures. I'm going to place it into the cell from this device. And we're going to use some pictures of some locks. So I've got locks, and I have another image that we're going to insert. Unlocked. All right. I'm going to select A1, and here we have the cell references A1. We're going to call this locked. And then we're going to go over here to the second one, and we're going to unlocked. So the A1 reference is no longer A1, it is locked, and this one is no longer B1, it is unlocked. Let's go back to our formula, and we're going to select D2, And under the formulas, we're going to go ahead and define a name. And we're going to call this pictures. And over here in the refers to, we're going to add the word, this is in between the equals. In between the equals and the quote, we're going to type an indirect parentheses. And at the end, we're going to type a close parentheses. We're going to click OK. Next, we're going to insert another picture, but this is something completely different. And we're going to use this band symbol. And here we go. And we're going to make the formula on this equal to picture. There we go. And let's, it was picture, it's not picture. And we're going to go ahead and expand it out so you can see that it's mirroring the exact same thing that this is. So if I change this to 2, 1, and now we change our unlocked. Let's take a look at VLOOKUP. So VLOOKUP, we have this table of employee names, position, and years. And what we want to do is we want to enter an employee number here in the yellow field, and it's going to change who we're looking at. So if I change this to 2, it changes the name to Elizabeth, her position with accounting, and years. So you can see here I entered this number in, and it returned to this data to the right of it. So let's take a look at this formula. So we have VLOOKUP. I want to look at H3, which is this cell right here. I want to look at this range that's in red, which is A2 through D20. The data that I want to return, so we're on name, I want to return the second column. So in this case we have 2, it's going to return Elizabeth. And then if we have true or false, the false is an exact match, where true is a fuzzy match. And you can see here we've got the same thing for the accounting, but the change is the column that it's returning, which is the C column, that's the third one in this case. And then here we have the years, which is the fourth column. So again, if we change this, it changes all of the different ones for us. Now, let's say I want to type in just the name. So in this case, we're going to type in Greg, and it changes that. But it does not have the employee number. Well, the problem is that it cannot look up to the left of the lookup value. So in this case, we have K3 as my actual value, but the range is B2 through 20. And it will not look to the left in VLOOKUP. So only things to the right. So now the second column is not B, it's now C. And then years will be 3, which it is. So they come up with a new one called XLOOKUP, and XLOOKUP allows you to have some more flexibility. So let's take a look at the differences. So as you can tell here, it's returning the same type of data, and it works the same way. But if I look at the formula, it's quite a bit different. So we're using XLOOKUP, and H12 is this one right here. This range is only looking at the employee range, the employee number range. So that's the range that it's actually looking up. And then this range here is the range that it's going to return. So if it's 1, it returns the one right next to it. And you can come on down the line and you can see that it's very much the same, except now I'm looking up the employee number and I'm returning the position. Here I'm looking up the employee number and I'm returning the years. If I come over here and I want to do it by name, it's the exact same thing as it was previously, except it does allow me to go to the other side, to the right. So my range is I'm looking up the name and I'm returning the employee number. So, and of course you can organize your data however you like, but that's the differences between V and XLOOKUP. Do you think that we could do a logo using V or XLOOKUP? And the answer is yes. So we're going to start with, I've already created this chart, and this has company names and company logos. Again, the logos that you download, you're going to want to make sure they have transparent backgrounds. So you can find those on Google. You just type in, Apple logo, transparent background. You can find it, download it, and then we can insert it in here. Now, the same thing that we did on the if formula is we're going to have to rename the logo picture to the company name, and I'm just going to do it lowercase, so Apple. We're going to do Microsoft. Shell. And Starbucks. Now you'll notice one thing that's a little different on this last one is I don't have any spaces between working with Hope, and that's because this does not allow spaces in this. And because it doesn't allow any spaces, I want them to be exact. So we'll see. So right, I've got working with Hope, no spaces, Starbucks, Shell, Microsoft, and Apple. All right, let's go back over here to our VLOOKUP formula. So we're going to do the VLOOKUP. We're going to do the cell B2. We're going to come over here to our range. We're going to put a comma, and we're going to go look at our range, and our range is the whole table. Oh, we didn't finish. We're going to display 2, which should be the company name, and we're going to do false. So we want an exact match. All right. All right. So as you can see, it's returning Apple, Microsoft, Shell, Starbucks, and working with Hope. Now I want to put a logo in here, so it's going to return me a logo. So let's expand this out so we can have a better size logo. We're going to insert picture from the cell. And we're going to come over here to my logos, and we're going to use the Braintek logo. And we're going to stick that in there. And then just like we did previously, we're going to come over here to formulas, define a name, and we're going to put in here logos this time. And we're going to put in direct, parenthesis, close our parenthesis. And we're going to come here and we're going to make this equal to logos. And as you can see, it changed immediately from Braintek to working with Hope. And if we continue on, it will show us the logo for each one of those based off of our VLOOKUP table. Pretty cool, huh? Let's take a look at pivot tables. So again, I've got this table of employees, first, last name, position, and years. So we're going to go ahead and select our data. We're going to come over here to insert, and we have pivot table. Actually, I want it to be right there. So pivot table from table range, select, and enter, and click OK. So my pivot table is going to show up right here. So it gives us some options over here on the right-hand side of what we want to look at in our pivot table. So I'm going to put in the first name and years of position. I'm sorry, years. And for position, I want to filter by that. So I'm going to grab position and drag it into my filters section. So now I've got my table, but it's summing all the years. I don't want it to sum the years. I would rather that change that. So we're going to choose value field settings. And instead of summing, I'd rather average that. So we can click OK. And as you can see here, it's now averaging the years as opposed to summing the years. Next, if we want to go ahead and filter, we can filter out by one of these options, or we can check the box to do multiples. So let's say I only want to look at the L1s in this example. It'll show me the L1 position for these people and then sum out the years for them. We want to only do, let's say, projects and sales. We can just do that. Now, if I want to select here, I can insert, and let's create a graph or a chart out of this. So we can just select any cell that within the pivot table, click Pivot Chart, pick a chart that you want to use, and let's move it out of the way. Let's actually delete these cells. And so that way you can see this a little bit better. And we'll expand this out. Now, if I want to do the filter, I can click on the filter of the chart, and I can change it to L3s. And it shows me just the L3s that are in this. And you can tell that they are just the two of them, and it also updated our table here as well, our chart. And of course, if you change it here, it'll change it for both at the same time. Very cool, and of course you can customize the chart just like we saw earlier in early examples, and make it look however you want to make it look. Let's take a look at external data. External data, it could be a workbook, a database, something else. So what we're going to do is we're going to link this to another workbook that I have saved. So we're going to click on Data, Get Data from a File, and we're going to choose an Excel workbook. over here I've got a workbook called External Data. We're going to import that. It's going to give us the navigator so we can look at this, and you can choose whichever sheet you would like, and we're going to import this data. So it gives us a little preview of that data, and we're going to just load it up. All right, so here's our data, and that's great. You can filter it, you can manipulate it however you would like to do, whatever you want to do with it at this point. Now, what if I update the original Excel external data file and I add some additional names to it? Let's give that a try. So let's open it up. All right, here it is. But you can tell here at the top, oops, that it's only read-only. So while I have the master open here, the linked data is not, I can't edit it. So let's go ahead and close that one. We're still read-only, so let's close this also, and then we'll reopen it. So we're going to add mini mouse. And we're going to go ahead and close that, save it. We're going to wait for it to sync up. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and edit the Excel intermediate. And notice that Minnie Mouse isn't showing up on this list. All right, so a couple of options we can do here. So first, we're going to click over here on data, and we can refresh it. If we hit refresh, it'll populate that. But I'd rather do it automatically for me. So now Minnie Mouse shows up. So now what I want to do is, after I've refreshed all, I want to go to connection properties. And I've got some refresh options here. So I can refresh every 60 minutes, but because, as you saw previously, the previous workbook was read-only, so I can't edit it anyways, so there's no real sense in checking that. But I can refresh whenever this workbook is reopened. So every time I open it, we're going to refresh it. So let's test that out. We're going to click OK. We're going to close this. We're going to open up our previous workbook. We're going to add Donald Duck. Oops. Duck. He's an 11. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Close it. And now when we open up intermediate, let's see what happens. Well, it's not there yet. And then he shows up. It's a little slow, but it came right in there for us. So that's linking with external data from Excel. What about something like SQL? So SQL, if you don't know, is a database. It's a collection. It's very similar to Excel. It's a collection of worksheets or tab data, kind of like this. So let's open up SQL here. So I've got SQL Database Studio Manager here. Now, this is a database that's on my computer here. So this is the full server name. This represents the computer name that it's on, and this represents the SQL instance. You'll have to get this from whomever set up the database. It could be on a server somewhere else, hosted at Azure, hosted on your local server at your data on your local server at your office. You will need to have permissions to it, so you'll need to get that information if you did not set this up. Go ahead and we're going to connect to it, and then you can kind of see it. So if we expand out our databases, we can have multiple, and we have one database here called external data, and within that, I've got one table called names. So over here, we're going to go to data, get data from database, SQL server. You can see there's a whole bunch of different ones, but we're going to start with this one. And you will need to know that server address. So that's the computer name / instance. The database name is optional, but we know that. So we're going to type in here external data, and we're going to click OK. Gives us the navigator, so we can choose the table we want to import. And here's a list of names that we want to load up. So it looks exactly like the other one that we brought in from the Excel workbook, but this is slightly different. So you can see here we've got Mickey Mouse and whatnot. So the same problem exists if we come over here to data, and if this is updated, it will not add. So let's go ahead and add Minnie Mouse to this one. Insert two names, first, last, and number. Values. Minnie Mouse, and she's a 112. All right, so we're going to insert that, and we'll give it a moment, and it will not automatically refresh because we do not have that option turned on. So if we click over here to the connection properties, we can now choose this option to refresh every 60 seconds or 60 minutes, I mean. So we're going to change that down to 1 minute, and we're going to also refresh on open. And we're going to click OK, and let's see if it updates for us. While we're waiting, we're going to go ahead and add another name. And there they showed right up. And so the difference between saving in SQL versus Excel is the Excel, the other sheet is going to be read-only, where the database is not and can be updated live by multiple people at multiple times. And so linking to the database is a better option in this particular case. Now, kind of one of the gotchas, if you click over here and go to refresh, you'll see that connection properties is not there. You need to make sure that you're clicking within your linked data set, and then you can click on connection properties here. Well, I'd like to thank you for attending our workshop. Hopefully you found this very valuable. If you'd like to donate to Working with Hope and help people with invisible illnesses, please click on the link or visit donorbox.org/rare support network number 2, or scan the QR code. And if you know of any businesses that we can help, we're always looking for new companies to help. Please give us a referral. If we set up a meeting with that person, we'll give you a $50 gift card. And if we sign them up for a support contract, we'll give you $500. A good referral for us is a company similar to like a CPA firm manufacturing that has anywhere between 10 to 40 computers and is unhappy with their current IT support. Please scan the QR code. You can register a link if you have one. I'd like to thank you very much for attending, and you guys all have a great day.